Ready?
Your video working?
Yep.
Me?
There we go. Ari is going to present for 20 or 30 minutes or so, and then we'll have Q&A time. So there's a little tab down there at the bottom of your screen for Q&A, and you can enter any questions into that, and then we'll have some time for that at the end. Just a quick plug right up front for Acres USA. You can find out more about our magazine, our books, our events at acresusa.com, including our upcoming 49th annual conference. It's 2 to 5 December in Madison, Wisconsin, and Farmhand will be there as one of our sponsors. We're excited about that, and lots of others. Great lineup this year: Gabe Brown, Alan Williams, Joel Salatin, Will Harris, tons of folks in all facets of regenerative ecological farming. And then Farmhand, you can learn more about at farmhand. What is it? All right.
Partners.
Farmhand.partners. Great. Thank you. So with that, I'll hand it over to Ari, and we'll be back in a bit for Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. So a little bit of background on me. My name's Ari. I'm the CEO and founder of Farmhand. I live on 5 acres, about an hour and a half northwest of San Francisco, in a city called Sebastopol. I've got a fruit orchard, about 150 mature fruit trees, and a small backyard garden. And I contribute my production towards a couple CSAs, and I'm also a member of a couple CSAs here. So have a little bit of a unique background, having a technology background, experience growing, and experience as a CSA member. And I've helped hundreds of CSA farms manage and grow their CSA programs. And so one of the things I've learned is the single most important thing is member retention. And I can tell you as a CSA member myself that once you know, trust, and value your farmer, it's not something you're going to cancel unless you move or die. And that's really the goal of this webinar, to give you some tactical strategies that you can use immediately to improve retention in your CSA program or set up your CSA program in the right way out the gate. So I think one important thing to think about is it's pretty much impossible to win on price and convenience in a world where grocery stores are open 24/7 and online ordering apps will deliver at the click of a button. It is, however, very possible to win on quality and service. And I think the challenge is spending your time in the most impactful way possible that drives that quality and that service. And so by prioritizing retention, by making a conscious effort to make that a priority, you can really, as a CSA farmer, deliver a deeper, more personal experience that transcends price and convenience, and really fosters relationships with local members of every generation. So I think that's important to keep in mind. And from the day a member signs up or a customer signs up, the focus should be on helping them see the value of the CSA beyond just the products they're consuming. And so that really starts with really strong communications and education on the food system, helping customers eat seasonally, expand their palates, helping them actually live healthier, better lives, and really counseling them on all things food. So that's growing, eating, preserving, shopping, gardening, you name it. And if done right, what really happens, which is kind of the magical outcome, is you've got a customer for life. And those customers are spending $1,000 plus with you every single year. So that's kind of the end goal here. So I'm going to walk through some of the strategies and give you kind of some tactical things you can implement right away to see these benefits. And the first thing I like to talk about is customer support. So for me, this sets the foundation for trust. And like I said earlier, like excellent service is critical here. And before customers even receive your product, they're exposed to your communications and service. And so that really kind of sets the relationship right up front. And if they have questions, are they getting their answers? If something goes wrong, are they taken care of? Are they heard? And then, like, what is that experience? Is it empathetic? Is it timely? Like, those kind of details really do make a difference. And ultimately, you want to make it really easy for your customers to contact you. Some prefer text, email, phone. And, as a farmer, this can be pretty overwhelming because you're in the field, your hands are dirty, like you don't necessarily have additional support. So messages can stack up and you can miss things, and keeping the unreads cleared is a challenge in and of itself. So I think, it's really, really important out the gate to acknowledge that like customer service is a thing and I need to be intentional about it and establish a system, clear expectations, and find support beyond just yourself as the sole provider of customer service. And so that could be a partner like Farmhand, that could be anybody kind of within your family or network who can help. And really the focus here is like, how can you get a lot of those mundane items, like the things people ask for again and again that are relatively straightforward, like they want to skip orders, they want to place account holds, they want to change pickup locations, they want to have someone else pick up on their behalf, they want to add something to their order. Like, how can you get those items delegated to someone who is reliable, trustworthy, and can handle them for you, so you don't have to, in the back of your mind, be like, did I miss something? Is something going wrong? And you can kind of move your time from just keeping the weekly order flow going to these more like intimate relationship building interactions with members. And so I don't think it's practical for anybody, let alone farmers, to be always on and just like running customer service on their own. And so I really think you need to think about the right approach for finding leverage for yourself. So yeah, that's definitely my big key kind of point of advice here is like find someone who can help you with customer service, because that's going to help out a lot. So I wanted to give the example of Carolyn from Something Good Organics. I think she's done a tremendous job here, and her members like love her and love the experience of being a CSA member with Something Good Organics. And she was able to delegate, what was taking previously 10 hours a week of this kind of like lower level customer service. And as a result, she spent some time really like on the ground, boots on the ground in the community. And that liberated these relationships with the Waldorf School, with the city of Santa Barbara, who are like-minded partners who saw the value in her business in nourishing the local community with fresh local food. And this in-person business development really like set the stage for building strong relationships with the members that came from those organizations. And then ultimately her presence really helped drive successful new member growth and retention from those customers. And in about 30 days from launching those partnerships and being on the ground and chatting with members, she gained 50 new members. 50% of those members not only signed up for the main CSA, but added additional shares like eggs or fruit or bread, kind of you name it. And then 25% actually ended up adding 3 or more. So that's the power of kind of connecting with customers, telling them your story, versus spending time kind of more behind the scenes, just kind of keeping things going. And so I think something for you to think about is, what is kind of holding you back in your kind of customer support capabilities? And can you identify some of these common themes that you're having to answer again and again and again? And can you find someone else to help do that? And then, liberate your time to be, again, used more strategically. The second tactic and strategy is really around flexibility. It's a bit of a loaded term because flexibility can mean so many things. I think if I were to boil it down, I'd say there's a lot of anxiety when it comes to making large upfront payments or locking into long-term contracts. Like we see that in advertisements all the time. Like people are really promoting their flexibility features. And psychologically, like I get it. Like you have a summer vacation, you're going to be off for a couple of weeks, or you're unsure of your job security. So like, can I afford to prepay this? And so, these concerns ultimately may manifest in people not renewing year to year, or may manifest in people not even signing up out the gate. And so I think for farmers who are able to acknowledge this concern that members have and offer a form of flexibility or multiple forms of flexibility, they really do see the benefit in member retention. And so that can be in the form of payment plans, order schedule changes, different sizing, smaller shares versus bigger shares. Those are just a few forms of flexibility. I want to give the example of Alice. Alice is at Fledgling Farm, and has grown her membership. She's a new farmer, first-year farmer, solo farmer, and has grown her membership in less than a year from 0 members to more than 40 members. And she has grown that membership while not losing any members and retaining all the members. And there's a lot of excitement around her program. And so when I talked with Alice and kind of asked her, like, what do you think are some of the big enablers of this strong growth? Obviously, she does a whole lot of things well, but one thing that really stood out was she made this transition from asking for a full season commitment, upfront payment, a more rigid schedule, to then offering a weekly pay-as-you-go option with the ability to skip orders, with the ability to pause orders. And customers responded really well to that because as a first-year farmer, like she hadn't yet built the trust within the community. She had a lot of experience as a CSA manager and in farming on the production side, certainly, but she was still in the process of building her own customer base. So by making that access point easier for customers, they were able to join. It didn't prevent them from joining, and they were able to stay. And as long as she was delivering high quality produce every single week, which she was, and providing a really cohesive, connected experience for her customers, the other details worked out. Like people were not just coming in for an order and leaving. They were actually ordering regularly and staying on a schedule. But again, they were psychologically at ease knowing that the flexibility was there for them so they could join the program. The next thing I want to talk about is really relationships. And I think there's just no replacement for in-person human connection. I think we all saw that in the pandemic. Like it's a little bit harder to have those quality, meaningful interactions online. You can still do it, but it's just harder. And so, when possible, farmers should make a concerted effort to meet their customers in person. And when not possible, because of geographical constraints or schedule constraints, you really have to lean on digital platforms as a form of deepening those relationships, whether they be email newsletters, Instagram, Facebook, other forms of social media, to really foster those connections. And so when your members see you, when they know you by name, and they see how much you care, it's very difficult to cancel. Because now in my head, I'm not thinking of like, I'm going to cancel Something Good Organics Farm Box. I'm thinking like, I'm going to cancel Carolyn. Like that's a whole different mental association. And so that's kind of where you want to get to. You want everyone to know you by name. You want to know about them. That's where your customers get a lot stickier. I want to give the example of Melanie because I think she's really kind of best in class when it comes to member retention. And really what Melanie does like so uniquely well is she's grown her program. So she's had to take the steps of expanding pickup sites to reach a larger audience. She's had to take the steps of not just being a farm pickup CSA. She's had to box, which can be challenging because it's harder to meet all your members when you've got hundreds of members. You're no longer at the tens of members. However, what she's done is she's continued to be present at pickup sites. You're picking up from her when you're at the farm. You're picking up from her when you're picking up at the market. You may not be picking up from her at some of the other distribution points, but you are hearing from her regularly throughout the season and seeing her throughout the season. And that really makes a huge difference. So as a result, she's had amazing member retention just from her physical presence. And she knows the families she grows for like very, very well. She has a vested interest in their health, their personal well-being, and the members have responded really well to that. So I think something to think about for everyone is like, what are some really tactical items you can take into next season to be more present for your members and have them see you more as the farmer, as the face of the business? And so is that going to pickup sites regularly? Is that starting to write an email newsletter that's telling the farm story regularly? Is that starting to engage on social media, posting regularly, commenting on posts from your members? So those are all different approaches that I think will drive you towards that relationship building. The fourth item, so quality and variety. We did a study and we interviewed 50 plus CSA members and non-members, and there was one overwhelming uniform theme. Regardless of demographics or who these customers were, everybody placed a very, very high importance on quality and variety. They wanted fresh, high quality, seasonal produce grown locally. That's ultimately what's bringing people to CSAs, what's bringing people to local farms. And most CSA members have probably joined because of some interaction with the quality and variety of your production, whether that be at your farm stand, at the market, or online, seeing it on social media or on your website. And I think it's really important that that quality bar is a priority and you're thinking about it in every aspect of your operation. You're eliminating or minimizing any sort of production, harvest, packing, delivery issues that could take place and could prevent someone from having the magic moment of receiving their box, biting into their fresh produce, cooking with their fresh produce. And doing this right is challenging, right? Like it takes a strong attention to detail to do this right. And so I think something to think about is like, what are the aspects that have driven past issues before, and how can I address these? One farmer who I think again does this really well is Wayne at Tierra Vegetables. And so a little bit about Wayne. He's been farming since the 1980s and was one of the first farmers at the farmers market in San Francisco. And their CSA program is similar in age, so very, very long-standing CSA program. And they're at the point now where I think they even have like a member's child is a member now. So like that gives you a sense of how long that program's been going. And they built a reputation on the quality of their products, specifically their corn and masa products, which are used in Michelin star restaurants in San Francisco and across the Bay Area. And they run a year-round CSA. They've really reduced the kind of scope of any fulfillment errors by running a market style program. Customers come to the farm stand, they pick out what they want, everything's there, everything's exactly perfect. So that eliminates that vector of issues. And then when you're running year round, like it's super hard to keep things exciting and fresh, especially as things roll into winter and spring and you just don't have the variety in some of those like star products that customers usually get excited about. And so to compensate for that, what they've done is really focusing on prepared foods and soups. Soups are super popular in the winter, like everybody's eating soups. And incorporating those into the CSA share gets people excited about the winter. So like when they're getting winter squash or storage crops, but they're getting soup with it, all of a sudden it's exciting versus if you were just getting maybe some of those storage crops or winter squash, like you might feel like, I don't know if it's worth continuing. So definitely something to think about. I think the takeaway here is like, are there things in your workflow that could be problematic that you could address? Can you remove some of these opportunities for errors? And then are there things you can do that can make things more exciting? So is there a particular like item you want to introduce? Is there a particular part of your season where you feel like there's a bit of a drop off in your production plan? Like how could you next season make a change to make it a bit more fresh? Yeah, so the next thing I want to talk about is the member experience. So I can tell you as a member of farms using no system like spreadsheets or even sometimes other like farm management solutions, and having interviewed a lot of CSA members, there's an overwhelming theme of like things are hard to do as a member. Things are hard to do. And you just don't want to hear that from members. Like you want this to be easy. You want this to be like delightful. So when they're trying to do simple things, like they're like, oh, wow, that worked so well. I'm really happy with that outcome. So I think it's really important to think about your member experience. Like what is the process for registering for the CSA? What is the process for initiating customer support? What is the process for getting reminders and information about my order, for making changes, for adding things to my order? And generally, people are doing the same things again and again. So there's a few things that happen every week or happen every month. And those simple things like skipping orders, changing schedules, placing holds, changing pickup sites, those things have to be very easy. And that's so important because you don't want there to be any barrier in the experience from a member receiving their food. You want it to be super, super easy. And so I think, you know, in the design of what we've done at Farmhand, we've really oriented towards a conversational experience because I just think that's easier for most people. People would rather text or email or just say what they want than learn a new technology. So to the extent possible, like how can you keep it more conversational, more easy for your customers to get the information they want? And how can you make those access points flexible for their needs? Because some people maybe prefer email, or some prefer text, or some, don't really like want to log into something and figure out a new technology. So yeah, I think about your current member experience, maybe review it as a member. Like, has anybody actually ever like logged in or been on the other side? Have you experienced that? And just kind of identify some of those points of challenges where maybe members have asked for something and ran into issues trying to do that. So yeah, I think the biggest like point of feedback would be like allow people to text you and email you and build a system to make it easy for them to initiate that experience via text and email, and just create more ways to connect with your members. I think they're just going to be more satisfied if they know that they can reach your farm, that you're hearing what they're sending, and you're quickly and timely responding to their needs. And yeah, just don't try to create these challenges in the experience where members feel like they're waiting for things, or they feel like they can't do something, or they feel like if they're reaching out to you, like they're bothering you. And so then what ends up happening is they're keeping these inner thoughts or issues to themselves. They're not talking about it, but at one point they're going to cancel or leave. And then you'll see it, but it's too late, right? At that point, like you potentially lost a customer. So I always say, like, make it as easy as possible for members to reach out to you, and then just set the expectations of how the process is going to work. And if there's any feedback, welcome the feedback, ask for the feedback. And so I would just keep in mind, like, what is the feedback I've gotten, and can I make some changes? Maybe it's introducing a vacation form. And so everybody knows, like, if you want to take a vacation or you don't want to receive an order, here, there's a form for it. That's a really simple thing you can add. And now you set the expectation. Like, we allow you to take a week off every season. So you can submit this vacation form, and then we'll double up your next order, or you can have someone come on your behalf, or we'll convert it into credits for add-ons. So that's just like a simple example of something that really can make the experience a bit better. And yeah, the journey unfortunately doesn't end with one season. You might have proven yourself in 2023, but now you got to prove yourself again in 2024, and then again in 2025. And I think the important thing is, when you invest in a system, in a process across your fulfillment, across your customer service, across your overall presence, online and in person, then things really start working for you. And this kind of transformation happens where you have a process by which a new member enters, they join your CSA, they go through these experiences again and again across receiving good orders, receiving amazing produce, having questions, getting their questions answered, feeling like the process is intuitive and easy, getting connected with the farm from great communications. And ultimately they transcend. They pass this threshold where they're not just a transactional customer, but now they're a true CSA member. They're bought in. They want to support you. They want to support the farm. They have a higher value for the products you're growing and providing, and they're just way more empathetic. And if done especially well, they're actually refers. They're going to be out there getting you new customers. So I kind of call it the cultivation point, because it really does feel like there's a threshold you cross as a CSA member where you just become very valuable to the farm. And so the goal is, let's get everybody across that point. So yeah, if you want to take it a step further, I pretty much meet with farmers every day, CSA farmers every day, and we just talk about this. We talk about their individual CSA programs, their individual constraints, and how we can help improve the program to drive the best possible experience for members, which then drives sales growth and consistent sales growth across seasons. And yeah, as Paul mentioned, we will be joining Acres at Eco Ag in December. So if you are also going to be there, definitely swing by booth 10A. And let's continue the conversation, and we'll have some shirts. So definitely come by and grab a shirt. And I think that's all I had for the webinar. So happy to jump into some Q&A.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Ari. That was great. Really good information. You know, would you mind taking just a few minutes and talking about Farmhand specifically, the types of things that it does, maybe the 5 minute elevator pitch on I know you have like text talk to text kind of capabilities that is really helpful for farmers. I think folks would be interested in hearing that.
Oh, of course. So there's two things that make Farmhand really unique. The first is we are a virtual assistant. So that means you can text, email, chat with us 7 days a week, as can your customers. And we exclusively work with small farms selling locally, primarily through CSA programs. So what that means is we have a system that's been built in place to handle all aspects of CSA admin and management across the website, customer communications like emails and texts, customer service, and order management and account management. And we are an assistant, or basically like part of your staff, that can manage that system for you. And so how that manifests is farmers can very quickly make changes. You want to change your schedules, you want to add pickup site, you want to add products to your store. Maybe the power went out and you got to notify everybody because something's changing. All you have to do is message Farmhand with that request, and then we make those changes for you, and communicate to your customers. So yeah, we're really set up to just make things a lot easier, so you can really focus more on the production side and then connecting with customers.
Sorry about that. I was muted. How do customers actually interact with Farmhand, or is it only the farmer who is interacting with you via the virtual assistant?
No, both. So there's a contact card for Farmhand, just as you would have a contact card for Paul. The contact card has a phone number you can text, a email you can email, and a online interface that you can log in and kind of make changes and chat with. And so the same way farmers are contacting Farmhand for requests, CSA members and customers can contact Farmhand for the same requests. And we just explain it to the customers that like you're farmers in the field and they work with Farmhand to help get you quick answers and kind of keep things organized. And then members will reach out, and then Farmhand will answer a lot of the simple, mundane, policy-based things. And then for the more complicated or intimate questions, just organize it for the farmer so that when they are available, they can see that there's 2 or 3 important priority items that need to be addressed for these customers.
Great. Yeah, that's that's super helpful. And yeah, people can learn more at your website about the features and pricing, I'm sure. Couple good questions here. One is, what are common reasons members choose not to renew? And how do you address these in your retention strategy?
Yeah, so number one, I would say when there are production or quality issues that impact a certain customer, they didn't get their order, they got their order, but something was wrong. And those issues happen multiple times in a season, or they happen early on in the member's life cycle. So maybe it's their first year with the CSA and like their first order got messed up. That's really difficult. And people are not yet able to be with you long enough to pick up all the great things I talked about, because unfortunately, like they were expecting something and they didn't receive it. And so that really hurts immediately. The second is, like I said, around flexibility, where it's just with the changing times, like the economy, things are a little tougher. There's an expectation of being a bit more flexible, having payment options. There's a bit more, I guess, hesitation of signing up for things with long-term commitments and like committing to that cost structure. People just are second guessing their expenses, and this is an expense. And so some people will second guess it. Versus when you are presenting your options with some degree of flexibility and evolving your CSA membership year to year, maybe adding a little bit more flexibility each year. So maybe first year you're saying you can skip one order, or we're offering a every month plan. Like you don't have to jump all the way to weekly pay as you go. That's like the extreme. But those that are not changing the flexible options, they're staying very rigid in the traditional model. It's just harder to retain customers because the landscape around you is becoming more flexible.
Yeah, for better or for worse, we live in a culture of instant gratification, right? People just are so used to everything being easy. So it only makes sense to stay with the game in that regard as the operator of the CSA.
Yeah, and the flip side too is like if you're at capacity, like don't worry about it, right? Like if you're at capacity, keep asking for the money up front, like be rigid, set your own rules, that's totally fine. But if you're not at capacity and you're trying to grow your member base or you're seeing members leave, then I would start addressing it. And you can actually do both. You can do the best of both worlds, which is your OG customers, you give them the like, hey, we're doing the renewals for 2025 early bird special. Here's the offer. And then as we roll into January, February, March, let's roll out the flexible options and let's get everybody else who maybe hasn't renewed into the program again.
Yeah. I also love the idea of outsourcing some of these things so that you can insource other things like you were talking about, like producing even higher quality or new varieties or whatever. We talk about that a lot in our magazine about how there are certain things on the farm that the farmer really needs to manage correctly. If they have employees, like these are the tasks, the best managers know these are the tasks that I have to devote my time and energy to. And obviously this, admin stuff and some of these easier customer relations things, it's great to be able to easily outsource them.
Yeah, exactly to your point. Like if you go off of first principles and you're saying the two most important things are quality and variety and customer service, you need to be honest with yourself on your quality and variety. Like if your customers are wanting new things or maybe want fruit or maybe are telling you these things and you can deliver that to them, that's going to elevate you. And it's not that you need to produce everything yourself either. Like there's a lot of great local producers available who you can augment different things with. And I think all the big CSA programs that I work with, they're not 100% literally like their own production. Now, a lot of them are primarily their own production, but they recognize that like I just can't give my customers the same thing like 4 weeks in a row, like I need to ensure there's some variety. I need to ensure they're excited about September and they're excited about October and they're excited about November and they're excited about December. And so I think those that do it really well, there's always something new coming around the corner. And it just kind of keeps things exciting for everybody.
Are there any CSAs in your area that are doing a full diet CSA where theoretically you're getting your, meat, you're getting vegetables, you're getting grains, you're getting yogurt, bread?
They tend to be smaller. Obviously, the customer is very valuable, but they tend to be smaller. I think more common is the ability to build together the full diet, but offer them in their pieces. So a lot of the full diet programs I know are kind of like shifting their approach to say, you can build into the full diet. You can get the veggies, you can add the eggs, you can add the dairy, you can add the meat, you can add the fruit, you can add the bread, but you're kind of adding these things on top. And a lot of customers do that and will do that. But there are more customers who will not want the full thing. They'll want a subset of the thing.
Right. Another question we got was, are there any or what are some emerging trends in CSA member preferences that farmers should prepare for in the next couple of years?
I think we talked about the main one, which is just, the traditional model was great in that people really got invested in the farm. They paid up front. They were typically working at the farm or, doing like a community day or here or there. They really bought into the idea of like, if things go wrong, like we're there to support you. I have not really seen people being as willing to go like work at the farm, or even like a lot of people have offered like you pick options or this or that. That's not the direction I personally see the CSA membership going. I think people are definitely opting for the CSA programs that are fitting with their schedules. And so there is this shift towards it's harder to form a new habit. And so can you fit it into a habit that someone potentially already has? And so I've seen more and more people leverage places that customers are already going to as pickup sites. So schools are a great example. You got to pick up your kids from school if they're going there. And so if the produce is there exactly at pickup time, two birds with one stone, that's wonderful. Gyms, wellness places, grocery stores, people are already going there. Those are great pickup sites. And additionally, on the home delivery front as well, a lot of people are busy, and the market has moved to more and more home deliveries. So people have started to offer home deliveries. And when we talk about home deliveries, everybody kind of immediately is like, oh, I don't want to do it. I mean, a full tank of gas, like 4 orders. And it's like, that's true. Like it's not efficient to do if that's how you're thinking about it. But I think of home delivery as like, just draw like a little 2 mile like radius around the farm, or where are you already driving to? Like you're already going to the market. Like, can you offer some deliveries like on the way to the market or after the market? So I think being intentional about building in the schedule to like what you're already doing, that again opens up the market because there's just more people that are going to be a bit more convenience driven, going to be a bit more kind of like uh, limited based on what they can do, based off of your entry price point, based on the expectations. So yeah, I just see that being kind of more the trend than the like old school style of like go to the farm, roll up
Yeah,
your sleeves.
yeah, yeah. The first CSA we were members in about 15 years ago in Virginia and Charlottesville was great. But yeah, you went there, you had all these UPIC options, and um, yeah, I think people probably are into more convenience these days. How how specifically would Farmhand help with a delivery type scenario?
So for delivery specifically, we draw like a zone. Like you can literally think of it as like you pull up the map, like you draw the shape you want. And so that will be your delivery option. We can set time windows. We can create delivery routes that optimize like you dropping off at those locations. And those zones can include pickup sites and home delivery addresses. And once you drop off your orders there, will also allow you to like press a button and then notify customers. So it can bulk text and bulk email all the customers at that site. Or if it's just a home address, it would, message just that one customer. So it really makes it a bit easier because, obviously there's a bunch of moving parts, and like now you got to generate the route and like do all these other things. So you don't really have to worry about those details. It can just be kind of set up, and we'll have it set up to like be efficient from the get-go. I always tell people like draw smaller zones. Like people always like are like, oh, we deliver to like, in my case, it'd be like Sonoma County. I'm like, well, Sonoma County is going to take you all the way to the ocean, up the Highway 1 through windy roads. You're going to lose service, and you're going to spend 30 minutes going 5 miles. So like you probably don't want to include that area of Sonoma County.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that sounds like it'd be so helpful in saving time. Uh, to just not have to plan out your route like that for the efficient, optimal way to go.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and someone else is asking, what's the best way to find a local CSA in their area?
Oh gosh. I don't know. Like that's
Google.
yeah, good. Yeah, you could do Google. Instagram's usually pretty good. There's like some good hashtags. Uh, if you know any CSA members like in your local area, you can just ask around, see if anyone's had good experience.
Can you talk a little bit maybe just about, and if anyone else has any questions, please throw those in the Q&A area. Otherwise, maybe just one or two more, but um, maybe just talk about how you rely on AI in all this. I mean, you have a background with Uber, I know, so you probably have been, uh, I mean, it sounds like AI is probably involved in Farmhand quite a bit.
Yeah, so I don't want people when they think of AI to think of like a humanoid robot that's just gonna go wild and do a bunch of crazy things. Because that's not what's happening at Farmhand. There's people behind the technology, and there's people 7 days a week that kind of oversee the member support and the farmer support. The way to think about AI is, are there ways we can intelligently identify common actions that people want to take, and then make those actions automatically? So an example I always give is the skips and pauses, vacation holds, because that is one of the more common things that CSA members are often trying to do. Maybe a traditional experience is there's a form, you fill out the form, and you like set the date you want to skip. You have to figure out where the form is. You have to figure out how to fill it out. Then you have to make sure like the farmer adjusts like the orders and reflects that in the upcoming plan. And so there's a bunch of steps that potentially have to happen for that to take place. Well, in our system, like all someone needs to do is say like skip my order. And then we can intelligently identify that this is what this person's trying to do. And we can automatically take that action on their behalf. The order is moved in the system, the customer gets an automatic reply. But we wouldn't release that capability until we knew with confidence that we can identify this is exactly what someone wants to do. And so that's kind of how we're approaching the technology itself, is how can we identify every one of these common repeating actions that members want to take or that farmers want to take. And then once we've got 100% confidence that we can identify it, how can we build the workflow to make it as easy as possible to do that? So it doesn't take a bunch of clicks. It doesn't take doing 4 or 5 things. It's just like executed. So that's kind of how we're utilizing it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think we're out of questions here. So maybe can you throw up your contact information there again?
Oh, I
So
think
that-
I might have also gotten some questions that maybe aren't
Oh,
visible
okay.
to you. Did
Go
those?
for it.
Okay, so I got one that says, how do you balance flexibility with managing farm resources and costs?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because providing payment term flexibility would intuitively tell you you would defer receiving funds because you're not asking for the money up front. But it's not really an either or option. You can have both. So the reason I say that is, like in Melanie's case at Shake Fork, when we launched the 2025 renewal campaign, the only option was to pay for the full season. And that was the first option. It was the lowest priced option. It also came with an incentive and a deadline. So you have to take action by this time. It's an exclusive offer to returning members. And there was a raffle for a Thanksgiving turkey. Like, that's pretty exciting. There was also like a tote bag, a couple other things, but it got people's attention. Most of the members took her up on that offer. So that right there, she was at like 50 to 60% retention off of just that offer to customers. Then shortly after, we introduced the option to place a deposit. Less money up front. You're not paying $750 up front. You're paying maybe $100, $200 up front. That brought in the next set of people. So you can just methodically take these steps and offer the flexibility, but don't offer the flexibility in a way where it's cannibalizing the other potential like benefits of the upfront. If you don't need the upfront money, then it really doesn't make a difference, because like I said, for the most part, when we've observed over the larger data set of CSA farms and CSA members in our network, there is no difference between the spend of the people who pay upfront and the people who spend week to week. There is no difference. The difference is solely based off of the additional products that are offered by the two different farms. So the farms that offer more things to their members that their members want, like fruit, like eggs, like bread, those members are spending more than those that just offer maybe the base produce box. So that's more so where the revenue difference is gonna take place. I definitely will say, like, people are concerned about sizing. So there's definitely some people who maybe felt like that was too much food in a certain season. so having the smaller size is nice. I know some people don't, they do one size and that kind of keeps things simpler on the fulfillment side. But that is another good tactic of like, you can have a slightly smaller size, but the smaller size doesn't need to be like, if it's 50% smaller than the regular size, it doesn't need to be 50% the price, you know, it could be 70% the price or 75% the price. But psychologically, again, like people don't want to waste and they might feel like a little bit better about the sizing they're getting. So that's another tactic. And then the third tactic, which I think is super, super important, is pricing. If you're providing more flexibility, it should cost more. Basic, like, right? So if you were charging $750 for the season, and now you're going to make it a weekly or monthly pay-as-you-go option, those members are going to pay $800, $850, $900. That's not as big of a deal because they're actually paying a lot less upfront. That's more what they're sensitive to. So you can make up for that with your pricing as well.
Great. We got another good question here from Mike. We're having problems being consistent with newsletters and social media. Does Farmhand offer any services for this?
Yes. It's very hard to be consistent. Nobody's holding you accountable. It's late night Monday. You want to go to sleep or do you want to write the newsletter? I get it. You want to go to sleep. So what we do on the newsletter is we just have you provide the information only you can provide. So what is that? What's going to be in this week's share? And is there a specific story from the farm or special thing you want to promote? That's it. That's the only information you need to provide. Now, some people like the therapeutic benefits of the writing and are like, you know, could be published authors. They're very good writers. Some people are not. So if you are a very good author and you like the writing, you can do that. That's also totally fine. And we just kind of format it, stylize it, prepare the email, send you a preview, and then send it. But just having that scheduled basis, like we remind you, we prompt you for the information, and then you can provide it really easily. That makes it easy to stay on track. And then with regards to social media, we will do like marketing design to help. This is on some of our higher tier plans to help promoting events or seasonal items. So that can make posting a bit easier because you have some of the assets you can use. But we're not yet quite as developed in our social media offering. But for the email newsletter, like 100%, we can make that super easy. And then for the social media, we can definitely help with the marketing design on our higher tier plans.
Great. Any other thoughts or yeah, last things? Maybe again, where to find you?
Yeah, you can go to farmhand.partners. If you book a demo, it'll literally be a demo with me. So it's not going to be a recording. And like I said, we'll talk about the specifics as they pertain to your farm, because every farm has its own nuance. And that's kind of the beauty of the setup process is we spend the time to kind of look at your setup and look at your process and maybe make changes or maybe keep it the same. So yeah, I definitely encourage everyone to set up time to chat.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Ari, and for everyone for attending. Again, you can see Ari in person, meet him at our Acres USA conference in Madison, Wisconsin, 2 to 5 December, acresusa.com. And thank you. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
All right. Thanks, everyone.